Welcome to the Restricted Handling Podcast. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. We're kicking things off with a real biggie: President Trump, Iran, and the shifting US China dynamics. Trump's been in the news a lot lately, but this time it's not about his social media posts or talking tariffs. Nope, it's about the Iran war. The president made headlines on Monday when he confirmed that he's asking to delay his visit to China, which was supposed to happen at the end of this month. It's looking like that summit's getting pushed back by about a month, all because of the ongoing war in Iran. Yeah, I know this isn't the headline you were expecting when you thought of a US China summit. But with everything happening in the Middle East, oil price hikes, military tensions, the Strait of Hormuz on lock, it makes sense. Trump's saying it's all logistics. He wants to stay in Washington to, well, make sure he's in charge while the U.S. manages the Iran situation. And to be fair, with oil prices soaring and the Strait of Hormuz more like a no man's land than a shipping route, it's not a bad call. But hey, let's be honest here. The optics of Trump staying home because the war's too much for him to juggle? That's got to sting a little, right? Here's where it gets interesting, though. The U.S. has been pressuring its allies, specifically China, Japan, and even some European nations, to pitch in and help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That's the major shipping route for oil, and it's crucial for global trade. Now remember that China is a massive player here. They buy a ton of Iranian oil, and they've been cozy with Tehran for years. So, when Trump called on China to help out, let's just say Beijing wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet. In fact, China basically shot down the request faster than you can say, "not my problem." China's foreign ministry said, "Nah, we're good," and called on all parties to stop with the military stuff. China doesn't want to step into the mess that's brewing in the Gulf, especially since they're in bed with Iran when it comes to energy deals. And can you blame them? They're not exactly itching to send their warships into the middle of a US-Iran showdown. They're playing it safe and keeping their distance. But let's take a quick moment to remember China's history here. This isn't exactly the first time they've been called out to step up and help, and each time they tend to pull a Houdini, disappearing into the background. It's kind of their thing. Why get involved when you can just focus on your trade deals, right? While all this is unfolding, back in Paris, US and Chinese officials are trying to keep things moving with their trade talks. We've been hearing a lot about the US-China economic war, and it seems like Washington's trying to lay the groundwork for a new structure called the Board of Trade. It's basically a way to keep tabs on the trade balance and ensure both sides don't go full-on WWE with tariffs. They're even talking about specific industries, like agriculture and energy, that could benefit from more formalized trading. Yeah, that's right. It's all about who's getting what and making sure it's fair, according to Washington. But I gotta say, good luck with that, right? We've been here before with China dodging promises and backpedaling on agreements. One hand shakes, the other is probably texting their economic buddies in the background. And speaking of China's economic moves, let's not forget about Taiwan. With all the drama happening in the Middle East, Taiwan's arms sale from the US is still a go. They're set to receive $14 billion worth of missiles, aircraft, and defensive systems. And China? Well, they're not thrilled. They've been pushing the US to stop sending arms to Taiwan for years. But here we are, another US arms package moving forward like clockwork. Taiwan's not slowing down, and it's looking like Washington's sticking with them no matter what Beijing thinks. Taiwan's still doing their thing, building up defense to keep an eye on China's next moves. The island's feeling pretty good about getting more US military support in the face of growing Chinese threats. Now let's talk about something a little closer to home, but still tied to that China versus US rivalry. In Southeast Asia, China's been keeping busy, this time with Cambodia. On March 16th, China donated materials to help Cambodia crack down on online scams. Yeah, it's not the sexiest of headlines, but it shows just how deep China's influence is getting in the region. Cambodia's been fighting a war on cybercrime, and now China's giving them the tools to keep cracking down. They've even gotten their government involved, pushing new laws and ramping up efforts to clear out the scammers. Honestly, you've got to give China credit for this one. They know how to make a move when it comes to influence, whether it's military, trade, or even public safety. Just don't be surprised if the next headline is about Cambodia becoming a little too cozy with Beijing. You know how they operate. Switching gears a bit, let's head back over to Taiwan's backyard, where China's making a lot of noise in the South China Sea. The People's Liberation Army, PLA, was spotted conducting air and naval operations around Taiwan just the other day. We're talking about military aircraft crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan's armed forces didn't take that lightly, deploying their own jets and Navy ships to keep an eye on things. So while Trump's trying to deal with the oil crisis in the Gulf, Taiwan's got its hands full with its big neighbor flexing its muscles. But here's the thing. Taiwan's not going to sit back and take it. They've been watching these PLA activities closely, and they're on high alert. It's a reminder that even as the U.S. deals with Iran, there's still a hot spot in East Asia ready to flare up at any time. The U.S. isn't walking away from Taiwan either. They've got their eyes on Beijing, and they're making sure Taiwan stays equipped for the long haul. And before we wrap up, let's mention that China and Vietnam aren't exactly slowing down when it comes to their relationship. On March 16th, both countries kicked off the 3+3 strategic dialogue, a fancy name for a meeting where they talk about diplomacy, defense, and public security. The two countries have been tightening up their ties, and now they're pushing for better coordination to face challenges together. You know, the usual: strengthening maritime security, fighting transnational crime, and making sure the region doesn't fall into chaos. They're also working to build more trust between their militaries, which we all know is a big deal when it comes to China. Keep an eye on Vietnam here. This new partnership is going to make things a little more interesting in the South China Sea. Thanks for listening and helping grow our community. Please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. We also publish a daily written intel brief on Substack, where you'll find even deeper coverage of Russia and China, along with insights on Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK.